Jeff, do you want anybody who wants to come up and say a few words about Norris or any kind of recognition? And then we do have the memorial book up here also, if anybody would like to sign it.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So, so Norris Dodd, he went to the last ICOET in Burlington, and since that time, he'd passed away. And he actually had a spot in this session doing some of his work with elephants in Asia. And so he had the fourth slot. And then since he was accepted, that happened. And then, so it dropped to 3 talks. And then it's the memorial, the ode to Norris here. And like Michelle said, there's a book on memories there. But I always wanted to say something real quick, and maybe hopefully some of other colleagues can just have some memories that we can talk about. Norris, I met him in 1996 as a volunteer on a squirrel project. Got to work with him for a lot of years, and he brought me in on doing some of the road ecology stuff and 260, and he's a big influence on my life. And I was honored to get the leadership award from ICOET this year, but I could say I would not be there without Norris and his influence. And so I want to leave a memory that I have with him that cracks me up. He's one of the most passionate people I know, and he's an advocate for wildlife, from squirrels to elephants and everything in between in lots of places. But he's also pretty hard-headed in literally and figuratively. So he's always standing up for wildlife. But one of the funny stories I have is when we were installing video systems on State Route 260, we were still using VCRs back then. So that's how long ago it was. And we're digging lines and trenches and putting in garage door openers to turn the cameras on. And we were digging trenches. We had to dig these 27-inch deep trenches for AC power to the systems, and there was a boulder in the way. And so he and I had these giant digging bars with the knots on the end, and we're just prying away at those. And Norris, he ended up whacking himself in the head. He's trying to pry, whacks himself in the head, falls to his knees and just kind of wobbles a little bit, cusses a little bit. And then he gets up and says, all right, about 10 minutes later, he finally is ready to go again. Within 30 seconds, he did the same exact thing. Hit himself right in the head with it, just right smack there. And then he fell down again, and then he got up and cussed again and took that thing and just threw it as far as he could. I've never seen a digging bar go that far. But yeah, I just wanted to share a fun memory, and I appreciate everybody sticking around to honor him for a few minutes. So if anybody else wants to say something, please do.
Well, a lot of us in the room work with Norris, and I helped get him an award last ICOET for Innovator Award. And one of the things I'm learning is that he was really good at teaching everyone. I mean, he helped bring out students and engineers and et cetera. And he's just very generous with his time. And he was actually very generous in a project we just finished up in 2022 as a pooled fund study. And I had the A team, of which people are here. And we did a national level study. Norris wrote some chapters of the manual that we provided. And it was $140,000 for years and years of work with a dozen people. And so it wasn't a whole lot of money to go around. And Norris dedicated his salary to Julia Kinch and I in the end and worked for me for free. And so it just shows his generosity. And so, of course, he was very generous all the way across the globe, which anyone else can talk about. Just want to let you know he's a very kind-hearted person.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin White. I worked with Norris I've worked with Norris since the very beginning when I started at Arizona Department of Transportation. And when I was working for ADOT, Norris was Arizona Game and Fish. And coming to ICOET now, it's really great to see projects like this that are funded, because back then on 260, there was no dedicated funding for wildlife crossings. And I often tell people that Norris was absolutely a pioneer, because when he was responsible for helping Jeff, and Arizona Game and Fish was involved with SR 260 and creating some of the first underpasses and wildlife crossings in the country, in Arizona. Like, we had Banff as an example at the time, and Norris was the person who pushed through all of those projects and talked the engineers without a plan necessarily, but with an idea in his head that this would work to make the roadway safer. They took money out of the dedicated highway, the budget that was designed to increase the SR 260 from 2 lanes to 4, and they used portions of that budget to create the wildlife crossings that are on that project today. So we've gone from trying to find money in the budget to having dedicated sources, and the things that Norris did on SR 260 absolutely, I think, created the momentum for a lot of everything else to happen. And it was a pleasure working with him, and it was, yeah, he was definitely an inspiration to us all. So thanks.
So I met Norris at my very first ICOET when I was incredibly green. It was a matter of months on the job at a nonprofit organization. I barely knew what road ecology was, and I was, thrown into that space. And he was just one of the very memorable people that I met there. That was so supportive and encouraging, and also a lot of fun. We danced, we at the bar, we had a great time that I quit. But also he just, he really supported me as somebody who was really new to the field, but also our organization. I worked for a little nonprofit back then, and we were trying to advance that conversation in Colorado and across the Southern Rockies. And he really, just pushed us to push ourselves. And if you remember, we had a workshop in Payson, Arizona back then, and I think that brought a lot of people back together. And I just, I feel like, again, everybody has said he's so accessible and generous and just supportive. And I think his contributions to this field as a whole, but to us as individuals who are lucky enough to know him, is just so substantial. And I'm so grateful that I did get to know him at least a little bit. So appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody. Anyone else? Anyone else in the room? Well, great. I mean, I think that's great. It also shows the closeness of this group, just that the overlap and everybody coming in just to say a few words. And so that's really special too. So we'll end early. Please visit with the speakers. If you have more questions, please feel free to sign the book. And yeah, thank you, everyone. It's our last talk of the session.